From unlikable characters to terrible villains, most fans hate the sequel Star Wars trilogy, but they actually are okay with The Force Awakens. But that is the cause of all the mess and how it got started. Hello, extremely intelligent lambs. I'll be your host today, Peter Wary, and welcome back to the Movie Gnome. Let us talk about why The Force Awakens is so terrible at setting up its world. First off, I'm going to ask you guys a quick question. Without looking it up, what is the name of the planet where Rey begins at in The Force Awakens? If you can name it, good for you. But most people cannot name that because, honestly, before recording this video, I quickly looked it up. I will give you guys the name for it at the end of the video. But for right now, I just want to, without spoiling it, comment below and then see if you're right up at the end of the video. So that's the first off. We can say that the place where we start out. Now, yes, technically we start out with the villain and we have the whole scenes with the stormtroopers. For those who haven't seen this movie, I will talk about what happens in the beginning of this movie. This movie is actually going to be a little bit, most of these movies I'm making about the intro, I'm just doing the first couple minutes. This one I might go up until the first half hour. That's how bad this movie is with setting up its world. That, as I talked about before, you want to be able to set up your world in the first 20 minutes. And this takes a half an hour and you still haven't set up in the most of the characters and there's a lot going on. I'll talk about that, not all in this video, but for right now, let's talk about the world. Let's start out so we cut past the whole scenes with the villain and the stormtroopers and all that. And we cut to inside this ship and all. So already on the path of, this doesn't look like that cool, this doesn't look like that fun of a place to be at. But again, as we were talking about in our last video on Worldbuilding, dealing with Batman, it wasn't that world wasn't perfect either when we started, but the fact of the matter is it was actually it was still worth watching. So we start out in this, the first complaint that we'll have with this is that we are in this bland planet. And this is going to go through the whole scene. And actually in the whole movie, it's just the blandness of this movie is weird. The blandness of this movie just destroys it. So, yeah, as I've talked about before, we have this, it's a bland movie, we have a bland planet where we start. And then we meet our main character, who really has no personality. I'm not going to go into too much of her character right now, but it is important when you're dealing with these characters, when you're setting up your character, that they tie into the world, right? And actually, this ties into a really big problem with this. That of, you have stories like The Lord of the Rings. You even have stories like the original Star Wars movies. What's the difference between this planet and Tatooine? When it comes to the characters, the big difference is Luke Skywalker had a reason to want to be there, to want to save his planet. That's not the case for Rey. She has nothing tying her to this planet. She's just there as a wandering person on this planet. Do we get a really good clue? Do we get a good glimpse of what's on this planet? Okay, so what do we figure out about this planet? Based on what we see, right? Okay, so we can see there's a bunch of broken down ships from the Empire. So clearly this was a crash site for these ships. Okay. And we see that there's a small little trading village. That's all we see on this planet. Now let's compare that to what we see when we first enter Tatooine. In the very opening moments of Tatooine in the first Star Wars movie, A New Hope, we start out by seeing all this life on the planet and this lifestyle on this planet of these creatures. Then we cut to our main character. We see how the planet runs, what people do on this planet. Yes, with this other planet in Force Awakens, we see that basically what these people do is they collect stuff from these broken down ships. But for what reason? How do they provide food? Where do they get water? All that, right? You really see that in Tatooine, where they explain that. They don't do a really good job of it, but they do explain how the systems work on that planet. So, that's the first thing, right? We have a reason to tie ourselves to this planet with Tatooine, but not with this other planet. Because our main character has ties to this planet. He has his aunt and uncle on this planet. And that's really what starts his journey out properly, is when, spoilers for those who haven't seen the original Star Wars movie, a little bit into the movie, his uncle and aunt dies. They get killed. Now he lost his connection to his aunt and uncle on this planet. Does he immediately now disappear off the planet? No, he has to. You go to a village on this planet, so now you know there's villages on this planet. You really see the vastness of Tatooine. It's a big planet. It's a desert planet, but it's a big planet. And there's talk about how it used to be completely a water planet and had a bunch of water in it, and now it's sand. So very interesting. You already know while there's almost the same planet of this bland, sandy planet, one has more life to it than the other. The other one has characters on it, but that's all. It has some scattered around people, but besides that, you don't really want to watch this planet. You really don't want to see it. It's, in one way you can say, it's not pleasant to watch. It's not pleasant to watch this while on this planet. It's a void of color. It's lacking in color. And you might say, well, it does have color. I mean, you can see the color. Let's put it this way. Black and white movies have better color. You can see the color better than this. Not physically, but just the color just pops off the screen. And here, it's bland, it's boring, there's no really color to it, it's not pleasant to watch. And then you just have this very dry opening, and then eventually you have a chase scene. That's basically what happens. There's eventually a chase scene, and then they escape this planet. And then the planet is forgotten about. For those who have seen all of the Star Wars sequels would know, I don't believe she ever goes back to that planet again. That planet is forgotten about. Besides with that one moment in the Rise of Skywalker where you just see a flashback of that planet. That's the only thing. They just stuck her on a random planet. They just had to they couldn't put on Tatooine, so they put on a different planet. But again, as I asked before, please tell me what the name of this planet is. I actually do remember what the name is now. But the fact of the matter is, I don't think they even say the name of the planet. You don't know. Not while people like to say, where it is a saying that show, don't tell. Sometimes you have to tell what the name of the planet is if you want people to actually remember the planet. Because the fact of the matter is, they do say, I believe, in the original Star Wars, that the name of the planet is Tatooine. They actually say it's Tatooine. In this planet, I don't think they ever say what the name of the planet is. As I talked about before, how even after Luke decides that he wants to leave the planet in A New Hope, he still has a connection to the planet, in a way. Right? It's where his father was raised, he knows that. And the fact of the matter is, it's also right after you see him leave that place, he goes to a cantina. He goes to this town on Tatooine, meaning that this place has villages. These places have towns where you can go and hang out. It has a lot of people of life in there. You have a lot of different creatures. You meet tons of different. I'm not a big fan of Star Wars, so I don't remember the names of all these creatures. If I have any big Star Wars fans in the comments, they can type down what the name of all the different creatures on Tatooine. But I know, you have the ones the little hooded guys who sells them the droid and the golden robot guy. I sound probably really stupid saying this because I see 3PO, I think one of them are named, and then RED2, I think another one is named. I can't believe I'm forgetting the names of those because they're very common names. But the point is, you still there's other life on this planet. As far as we know, there's no life on this planet besides that couple tents that you see with the trade industry. And that's the only thing. Is there no one else on the planet? Is there only a total of 10 people on this planet? Like, how did she get on this planet? Honestly, it makes no sense. It makes no sense why they would choose, her parents would choose that planet, besides maybe because there's no one on the planet, she thinks that she would be safe. But the fact of the matter is, it's a very bland planet. It really has nothing enjoyable to watch. None of the characters on the planet are likable to want to keep you on this planet. There's nothing that wants you to come back to this planet. Most people who once they get off the planet never wants to go back. Guess how many Star Wars movies have Tatooine in it? A desert planet is the most dry looking planet ever. People keep wanting to go back to. They keep wanting to see that in every single movie. People flip out when they say, "Oh my goodness, it's Tatooine. Wow, we get to see Tatooine again. A desert planet. We get to see a desert planet again." People are so excited to see this desert planet. And while some people might say, "Hey, that makes no sense," right? Some of that might come from, and some people might say that comes from that, you mean it's really nostalgic now to see Tatooine. But even from the beginning, people still like Tatooine. They still enjoyed Tatooine. They still wanted to watch more of Tatooine. They wanted Luke to go on his adventure because they wanted to see more they wanted to see him stop the villain. He wanted them to see him, save the galaxy and be able to come back to Tatooine. Because even how dry and boring it looked, there was some aspect to it that made it nice. It might have been that there was 2 moons, and people liked that idea of 2 moons, and how it gave an extra aspect to it, but it's also that there was life on it. There was cultures on it. You really could get behind that there was cultures, and even further on, as the Star Wars movies go, you learn about more and more cultures on this place. I don't think in any Star Wars movies they're ever going to go back to this planet that was introduced in The Force Awakens. I think they're going to completely forgot about it, including in the sequel trilogy. Guess what happens at the end of the trilogy? Guess where Rey goes to retire? Tatooine. She goes to Tatooine. She doesn't go to this desert planet. She goes to Tatooine. Because people like Tatooine. Nobody likes the planet from The Force Awakens. So, in conclusion, let's quickly look over what we learned from this, right? So we learned that if you want to make a world that's worth watching and worth, cheering on the characters that save this planet and all, you need to make it not bland. It needs to be colorful, but not just in the physical colorful, but in the way that there's life on it. It needs to have life. It needs to have personality to this planet. It needs to have landmarks where you're like, oh yeah, that, the cantina, this, that. You get the point. It needs to have some place where you can remember it for. And even from the standpoint of the difference between A New Hope and The Force Awakens, there's not even an evil threat looming over the planet. It's perfectly fine. There's no problems. They can go about their day for years to come. There's eventually some stormtroopers or whatever they're called who come to their eventually there are stormtroopers who come, but it's not because of the reason that they are needed. It's not for the reason that they need to enforce it. Actually, it sounds like the villain, which I can go into a whole video talking about how this does a terrible job setting up its villain. But there's no threat. You don't feel a threat on the place. Even, yes, you do have some stuff like the Lord of the Rings, where you have the Shire doesn't feel like there's a threat on it. But you see this happy little place, and you know that the world around it is not happy, is in destruction, and is about to get destroyed. And if they do not leave with the ring, they will also be destroyed too. So yes, you do have that a little bit with the droid that they have to take with them and try to get off the planet. But the fact of the matter is, there's nothing really... Again, the bad guys in this movie are not really threatening enough to give you a reason, right? You don't want to really... There's no reason to root for these characters and for this planet. I don't think the character would mind. I don't think anyone would shed one tear if this planet disappeared. So before I quickly end this video, I just want to mention the name of the planet was Jakku. So tell me in the comments if you got that right. If you were completely off, I will check the comments to see what you guys put. But the point is, the name is forgettable too. The whole planet is forgettable. So this is how you do not. This is how you fail at world building. Quickly before I end, I just want to mention, I talked about this in the previous video, but it would be very nice if we could get everyone who is subscribed to this channel to share it with like 10 friends and see if we can get at least 5 people to subscribe, if not 10, because again, as I talked about in the previous video, if we have 25 subscribers and each of those subscribers shares with 10 friends and at least 5 of them subscribe, then that's already 125 new subscribers. And remember, I'm trying to, once I reach 100 subscribers, I'm going to do a special Q&A where I answer 100 of you guys' questions. It can be personal questions, or it could be just questions about this, work, or it could be more work questions of, movies, of what's your opinions on this movie or stuff like that. Either one, it could be any type of question as long as it's not a question that has to do with, stuff like your social security number or stuff like that. I'm not going to answer that kind of stuff. So, again, look forward to that. Try to see if you can get at least 5 friends to subscribe. If everyone can do that, we're already going to be over 100. And then after that, try to get at least 5 more subscribers. Because then after that, if we get 125 new subscribers, and we're already at 25 subscribers, that's 150 subscribers. Then after that, all you guys have to do is, if you guys get 5 more subscribers, then we're at 750. And that's already past the 500 mark that we have to make to the next special event that you guys are the ones who get the plan. Then, after that, all you have to do is try to get at least 5 more, and that will equal up to 3,750. Then, that's already over the mark to the next big surprise. And guess what? That's halfway there to our big launch of the second channel that we get to do. So basically, if you guys manage to, now I'm not expecting this to happen, but if somehow you guys manage to get 5 friends each, and then the very next week we already reached the 150 followers, and the very next week after that we reach the 750, the very next week after that we reach the 3,750 subscriber mark. Then the very next week, if you guys manage to get 5 more subscribers, guess what? In 1 month from now, you can already launch the next channel. If you guys just get 5 friends, those people get 5 friends, those people get 5 friends. You get the point. The more you guys share, the more subscribers we can get, and the more fun we can do. The more creative minds we can spark. As I said before, I reminded you guys in the last video about this, but I'll remind you again, right? I doubt it's going to take only 4 weeks to get there, but you guys try to prove me wrong. Try to prove me wrong. try to show that actually maybe we could get to that. You know, I would have found it even cooler if you guys found a way to manage to get it even higher than that before that time. I don't know what I would do. I would probably have to like do something really special, because I would be like, okay, you guys are what far and beyond for this channel. Thank you guys. But anyway, we'll see what happens. But overall, thank you guys for watching. Like, share, and subscribe. Share with your friends, and let's see how we can go. Let's see how far we can get in the next couple weeks. Overall, this has been the Movie Night Reviewer. Peter Wary, signing off.